Welcome to Charlotte Conversations. I'm Pastor Barrett. Today I'm joined with our very special guest, Colin Pinkney. Today we're excited to be here sharing with you the man cave. What men talk about. We know in today's age there's been this vacuum created from all of the social media conversations, and some of them have just really been not the best, and some of them have been just on point. But what we're seeing is there is a culture and there is a subculture. And unfortunately, people are confusing the subculture as our culture. And I'm here to tell you today, the culture is not ratchet. I'm here to tell you it's not. As a matter of fact, the culture today actually is based, still comes from, and no matter what people say, I think the church still has a role to play in shaping the culture of black people. But we haven't taken that position. We have allowed the mainstream society to depict what our culture is in the black family, in black people, black community. And as such, we've had these dialogues where people aren't really talking about, at the end of the day, a man and a woman gets together to get married. But for some reason today, it's about the negotiation, the transaction, the wide variety of other things, but the end game is not necessarily to be a family, but the end game is just to be someone's partner for a season. And that's a struggle that I hear. America is 56% of marriages end up in divorce. That's 1 in 2. Your second marriage ends up in divorce 60+% of the time. Third marriage 73% of the time. But it doesn't have to be that way. But it really takes us to communicate. That's just on relationships. Just on general being cordial with one another. Opening a door for late doesn't mean I'm trying to get your number. It means that I'm a gentleman. You know what I'm saying? Going out and I pay we're friends. It doesn't mean I'm still trying to date you. I'm being your friend. I'm being a gentleman. And I think we just haven't had a form of communication. But in the man cave, all these conversations of wide variety come up. And in my opinion, quite often is the minority. And so, but I think it's good for us to hear different perspectives. And so this is going to be a very transparent conversation. And before we get started, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are.
I think I told you last time, but I'll tell you again.
Yes.
In my work life, I serve as the CEO of the Harvest Center of Charlotte. We're a faith-based nonprofit serving the corridor for situationally homeless men, women, and families with children, providing a full transformation community where they can realize their dreams of being permanently housed homeowners, business owners, working life-sustaining jobs in the community. I do that by day. By night, I serve as a team chaplain for the Charlotte Hornets. Been doing that for about 20 years now, and that brings a lot of neat opportunities for me I never thought I'd realize in my own life. Being Michael Jordan's chaplain, that's pretty interesting. And then also outside of that, as you know, I work with couples, I work with men, relationship issues, providing a lot of help and support and services in that way to help people realize their dream of healthy, happy, fulfilled relationships. I've been doing that for about 14 years. And then outside of that, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and been married 27 years, 28 next year.
Way to keep the numbers
that's me, right. you lose track of time.
Yes, it's just been all lovely.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, right.
Every day.
For sure.
Nobody. No one.
Another day in paradise.
No one has a lovely day every day. Matter of fact, Michelle Obama said for 10 years she couldn't stand Obama.
I like that.
Right. She said for 10 years she couldn't stand him.
Let a lot of us off the hook, didn't it?
Yes. I said, thank you for saying that. But God is good. So I want to jump right in. You said something about you work with couples. What's the conversation right now with people? What are you hearing the normal, I guess, conflict or trouble in relationships?
That people just are not fulfilled. The relationships aren't fulfilling. That they moved into this lifelong commitment thinking it was going to bring fulfillment.
Yes.
wholeness, completeness, all of the fairy tale things that we don't realize we're assimilating to from the movies we watch, from the music we listen to, from the stories we're told, and people take that seriously.
Yes.
They don't just hear the song and think, oh, that's just a song. They actually believe that he's going to be that guy, or she's going to be that woman, and they get married, and they marry a real person who has real issues, and they find out that they don't know how to live that out in a way that's fulfilling. The reality doesn't meet with the idea, the image. Yes. And people aren't satisfied in their relationships. I had a young man call me yesterday in tears, a man in tears on the phone, and who was transparent enough to say all the things that he can't say out loud. And it's not just the men, it's the women too, that people are expressing a great deal of unfulfillment in their relationships, and that's why relationships aren't lasting as long. Mm-hmm. The stats you give on marriage hold true pretty much, but there's more to it than just that, the fact that people are getting divorced. Divorce represents, in most cases, years of unsatisfied relationship. I mean, the divorce is final, but you imagine people sometimes 3, 4, 5, 10 years are living in very unfulfilled realities, and the divorce just kind of signifies this hasn't been working for me. And so we got a lot going on in relationships.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think the thing that if there's anything to be said about culture that I think is, whether it's positive, good, or whatever, I can't say, but seems to be more of a dialogue. There's more talk, as you said. It's everybody's got a microphone and everybody's got their own answers, their own opinions. So every now and then you hear some truth. Every now and then you hear something that's credible or relevant. So if you keep listening, you got to kind of cipher out most of the junk. And every now and then you hear just something, and people take hold of that, and they take hope from that. Nuggets, yeah.
I hear nuggets, but also I'm hearing, you deal with some of the wealthiest black men in the world.
I do.
On a regular basis, interact with them. But then I'm hearing the conversations quite often. I picked up on it. It's a socioeconomic conversation. If you're still talking about, I need to go to a 5-star restaurant on my first date, I don't even know if that's a wealthy person's conversation. I don't know. So I think that maybe we need to rethink, coffee, going on a walk in the park or going for coffee or going somewhere to interact with the person to get to know them, that seems to be a more valuable time spent than going somewhere where it's not something I want to consistently do.
Right.
But so what are ball players doing? What's a first date? What's the complaint of the 1%? What's the good stuff? The 1%.
Well, I can't divulge secrets, but no. The thing that amazes me, and I've had an education in my own understanding about relationships and things, based on dealing with, again, some of the wealthiest individuals in this country, and at the same time, I work with some of the most under-resourced people in our community, and they all live in Charlotte. They live here together. Some drive to North Charlotte, some drive to South Charlotte, some live in West Charlotte. What's amazing to me is at the root of it, they're all still wrestling with the same issue. And it is a sense of fulfillment, right? And it's a sense of who I am, whatever I bring to the table, whatever that is, has got to equate to something that's fulfilling for me. So if I do take you out to Steak 48, and I'm at that space, it's not just because I want to go to Steak 48 and I want to spend all my money. I want a relationship. I want the relationship to be primary over the trappings of my wealth. We just attended the wedding of NBA ball player a couple weeks ago. We went down to be with him and his family, his new wife and all that. And the stories they told about their dates where they ate at Chick-fil-A, or they took a picnic and they made sandwiches.
Right.
They weren't, and he could do it. And I knew the guy, and he told me clearly, how he saw his money and how he saw his life, and that he actually would not. Well, he don't have to date now. He's married.
Right.
But while he was in the league, what he had to deal with was the perceptions and I'll say there are misperceptions, that because he was a pro athlete and he had a lot of money, that he was sleeping around and he's got a lot of girlfriends and all that. That was a misperception that women had of him in general. And his own misperception, he admitted to, was that women just wanted his money. And he had a misperception of women. Now, look, do all women want your money? Well, you know, everybody's different, right? But he had that reality. He lived that. He saw it with his teammates. He often talked about, you know, watch these guys and they're doing this stuff. I don't want to be like that. And he wasn't alone. There are other guys like that.
Yes.
Wealthy. They want to be loved. They want to be treated normal, but it's hard to be normal when you're 7 foot and you make $10 million a year, right? And you know, that's abnormal.
That is.
But
7 foot is abnormal,
but
regardless of how much money you make.
Right. But the struggle's still the same.
Yes.
What he wants at the foundation is a real relationship. Do you value me for me, or do you just want my money? Do you just want what I can give you? Do you want the access? I can introduce you to Michael, or you got a dream of being what do you call it? Social influencer. And you think if you get close to me and we get in a relationship, I'll introduce you to all my content. And that's real. I mean, that's not imagined. That's what they're living with. And in some ways, like we all do as normal human people who don't have that, they condescend to, well, I'll sacrifice it. Yeah, I'll go with it. Even though in my heart I don't want to be that kind of person, you just look at me for my stuff. But if that's what I'm going to have to exchange to have the relationship, then I'll do it. And it happens all the time. And then they find out, some of them too soon, some of them too late, that doesn't satisfy, and the behaviors change. If you pull back those things, if you stop buying the cars, if you stop taking me to Steak 48 and buying the purses, then other things stop too, and then both people are unfulfilled. And it happens in relationships where people don't have money.
And I think what I'm hearing is it's just scalable.
Yeah.
Their scale is much higher.
Yeah.
And the scale right here, everybody wants to go to Steak 48 though. That seems to be the thing.
I haven't been yet.
I haven't been to Steak 48. You know why I haven't been to Steak 48?
Why's that?
Because everybody wants to go to Steak 48.
Right, you like
and
me,
I'm like,
right?
I'm not going because everybody else wants to go to Steak 48. You know, I'm not doing it. So
yeah, I don't like taking other people's opinions about food, movies, and
I want to go the opposite way.
Right.
You're right. If everybody's going right, I'm going to see what's going on left. You know, just because.
Sometimes that's wisdom.
I don't know what I just don't want to be part of the crowd and then being herded like sheep to a place.
And that sounds like a small deal, Barrett. But the truth is, that's where men are a lot of times. Men want to be different. I don't want to be seen as I don't want to be like those guys. I don't want to be like that guy. That's why men dress the way they do. That's why some men, you know, to look at the styles of dress today, everybody's trying to distinguish themselves.
They are.
I don't want to be, even though when you think about it today, you're still being like the crowd, right? You still, it's like
there's always so much change you can add.
Right. But that's true.
Right.
You know.
So what I'm also hearing from that conversation is people want to be loved. People want to be respected. People want to be honored. People want to just be people as well.
And I'll take that in two ways. The problem with that is if you've got a definition of love that nobody else shares, then you're in for a rude awakening.
Okay.
So if love for you means a certain way of being treated, a certain way of you acting towards me, and that person doesn't know that definition or doesn't know how to do that, you're going to deal with a lot of stress and strife, or what I call unsatisfaction. And so if you're approaching the relationship, I just want to be loved, and she says, I just want to be loved, but you guys have two definitions of love, well, you're still in trouble.
Yes.
Because that doesn't satisfy.
Yes.
I think what's probably more true underneath people saying, I want to be loved, there's an old song, I'll get corny here, is I want to know what love is. I want to know what love is, right? And can you show me? Can you show me through this relationship what it looks like to give and receive love in a way that's satisfying, fulfilling? That's what I want to know. I'm okay if that's what's happening, then I can stay in the relationship.
Yes.
But if I just want to be loved and I choose you because of certain external factors, but I don't really know that we have the same idea of what love is, it's going to be a challenge. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's going to be challenging.
Well, let's go to respect.
Yeah.
I watched recently a Colorado Buffaloes game, and
Yeah.
the quarterback, Deion Sanders' son, Shadir, got up and in one of the interviews he said that the game was personal, and that the disrespect came from the opposing coach first.
Yeah.
And, it was about respect. Something about men and respect are like so high on the pedestal of life, of determining things. How do you see respect? Quite often I'm sharing with some sisters when I'm talking to them about men want to be respected, and if they could, but the problem is people don't even know how to respect someone. They don't know what respect is. Well, what do you think the role of respect is in the eyes of a man?
Well, I think if we're going to really talk about respect, we got to talk about stuff we don't have enough time to talk about today. But I'll take a stab at it. Most men see respect as in a vacuum of what they didn't get with their little boys. So as a little boy, I grew up not being valued. If I grew up in a space where my voice was never heard, if I talked, I got told to shut up. If I said I want to wear blue and said, no, you got to wear this. If as a little boy, a young man growing up, I lived in an environment that didn't model my value as a person, didn't model my person. Then I grew up in my intimate relationships, and I tend to say, well, you can't talk to me like that, because my mama used to scream at me and cuss at me, but you can't do it. Because as a little boy, I didn't have the power to say, Mom, you can't curse at me. Dad, you can't hit me. We don't usually, as children, have that power. So for boys, when they grow up, what you usually see, the boys who are screaming for respect are the ones who didn't get it when they were boys. Men who were respected as little boys, that's not an issue. It's really not. The issue we see, the cry for respect, you see grown men who are saying, look, I got cheated of some things when I was a little boy. You're not going to cheat me.
Oh, wow. I
can tell you we have enough time to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. I always go back to the Million Man March. And, And, right before that, guys step on a guy's sneaker or his Timbs or something like that, put a mark on it.
Bruh.
It's an issue.
It's real.
A real issue. Like they felt disrespected.
Yeah.
But the Million Man March, he was stepping on toes all the time. And brothers, you all right?
Got a common cause.
Right. It switched versus they checking on you when you step on their shoe. And so, from that, I've always taken that men really respect is something that we cherish or we want to feel as though we're seen. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe want to be seen.
Well, that goes back to childhood.
Okay.
Right? If you're a young boy who grew up and was seen and was valued, I mean, I'll use my oldest son Isaac as an example. This is, because as I look at him and how he's matured as an adult man, Isaac doesn't cry out for respect. Isaac's need is not respect me, because as a little boy, Isaac was seen in a lot. Now, he got bullied when he was a little boy, and he got pushed around because he was a skinny kid. He was developmentally behind. He didn't present with all the swag of the cool kids.
Right.
So kids do what kids do. They were cruel and mean. Isaac found his voice at a very young age through what he could do, and he found two parents that supported him, and he was allowed to do things, to practice karate and sports and expressions and other things. So Isaac, as an adult male, the way I see him as his dad, is not one who would even say to his wife, you got to respect me. He's already there. Now, he's still growing. He's not perfect. But then when you look at I look at him compared to other little boys who I've mentored, other young men I've mentored, who didn't have Isaac's experience, and I see that they're the ones crying out for respect. Okay. These women's got to respect me. I'm going to have my own. Well, and Isaac's a guy, you can step on his shoes and it wouldn't bother him. Isaac won't even buy a new pair of shoes. Isaac's got enough money he could have all the shoes he wants, and Isaac probably has 2, 3, 4, 5 pair of shoes in his closet.
He's a unique person.
He is. He's a different person. But it has to do with his childhood.
And I think I hear guys don't talk about they want respect more. I hear guys saying when they don't get respect, they speak on don't disrespect me. But that's recently they had this 50th anniversary concert for hip hop, and so lately in Charlotte there's been like a hip hop concert every third day. Somebody in town.
Flavor of the month.
Man, what is going on? I mean, we get all the hip-hop concerts. So last night...
They had hip-hop at the baseball game.
They did.
Did you ever go to a baseball game?
Yes.
Black people don't go to baseball shows.
No. Well, but it's too hot.
But they had a hip-hop night. And
they had HBCU night, too. Recently. Yeah. So I was at a hotel yesterday. My friend came in town. We were in the hotel lobby and eating dinner. And I got to see the spillage from the hip-hop concert. And the people from... And what I saw was... almost to a point of alarming of the culture that we are displaying. And I was wondering, like, and then I'm going to put us up on some toes here, but this is what we're doing. And if I was in the barbershop, I'd say, like, you know, are they positioning themselves to be someone's wife or someone's friend? And do you... in your interaction with people, are we seeing, is there a difference between someone who is working to become someone's wife or someone who's working to become someone's friend and they don't know it? I mean, I think some people don't know what it is to be a wife.
I give you a real life example.
Yes.
It just happened yesterday. We had a graduation ceremony for the program we run at the Harvest Center, and there's a young lady who's in our program who comes from that life. But that life left her nearly homeless and destitute, just a messed up life, and she just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. She's not 30 years old. She's close to 30. She's got 2 baby girls. And her life has changed by being in our program, by putting in a space where she's valued, she's loved, she's helped, she's supported. Well, her mother came to the graduation yesterday. Mom hasn't changed. And so Mom came to me and she said, "Hey, have you seen her music video? You know, because this young girl is incredibly talented.
Yes.
And we're doing everything we can to set her up for success, her future and all that." Well, her mother, who is still back there in that life, came to me and she said, "Mr. Pinkney," she said, "have you seen her music? Now we just gave this girl an award for getting her the cosmetology license, and she's working on being an insurance broker, and she's working on all those, I call them normal things."
Right.
And Mom comes up, her mother, and says, "Have you seen her music video?" I said, "No." She can sing. She said, "Oh yeah, Mr. Pink, she can sing." Yeah. I said, "Well, show it to me, show it to me." She said, "It's on YouTube." And Mom's getting it out, and the daughter comes over, and she snapped. She said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm showing him your music." She said, Mom, don't you do it. I'm not there anymore. I don't want him to see that." And I saw in that moment the friction of that lifestyle. That for me, this is opinionated.
Right.
I don't think people want to stay there.
Right.
I think people just don't think they have options.
Oh.
And when they do break out, what we see is there's a pull to not leave.
Right.
Because there's people comfortable with that. That's our identity. That's how we've been living. You made some money doing that. We got, but that's a very short, that shelf life doesn't last very long. I mean, most hip hop artists, after a while, I ain't gonna name them, but they change. The ones who really make it, the ones who break out, they get married, they settle down, they have kids, and they become billionaires.
Right.
But they send their kids to private school. Their kids don't go to school in the hood.
They don't.
And their kids don't model that lifestyle.
Not at all.
Isn't that interesting?
Not at all.
They change.
You know, I grew up in L.A., and the brothers who come from the hood, who become successful, they live an hour outside of L.A.
They get out of there.
But they still act like they're in the hood.
They try to bring the hood with them.
They're an hour outside.
Yeah.
Outside the neighborhood. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That shit. You know, you make a point that people are trying, once they get out, they don't want to get back. And it becomes an effort not to go back, too, because you'd be focused on that. I think that goes back to what I saw yesterday. And even for guys, you mentioned something last time we had this conversation, and I mean, it's been ringing in my mind because I find myself using Cash App a lot. There are people, you mentioned that a guy needs to tell your child today, your son today, is make money.
Yes.
I think it's imperative that you really focus on making money. Men, to prepare themselves to be good husbands, you have to make money.
Yeah. You have to contribute.
Yes.
That message, unfortunately, I think in some ways it's gotten way watered down that young men, and we're talking about men here, right, think that they are to be the ones who always get and receive. And I believe that manhood in past generations, in our generation, future generations, a healthy society needs men who contribute. And to contribute, you've got to have resources. You got to have money. You got to have material wealth so that you can be a contributor and not just one who takes from the community all the time.
I've been talking to a couple of sisters, been telling me repeatedly over and over again, the 3 Ps. They want a man who's going to be the priest, the protector, and the provider.
Yeah.
And I think part of the problem is that in relationships with people is people move too fast to the Ps.
Can I interrupt that though?
Go ahead.
Because there's another P in there. I think
you didn't mention that.
I love the women. I do, but I think there's one, and I know this experientially. I know this working with couples. You know, priest, protector, provider. There's another P that I don't think it's talked about enough, and we don't see it modeled, but that's partnership. Right. So when a woman, black women, I know black women more than I know women in general. I'll generalize for the sake of being controversial here. That's what other people do on podcasts, right?
Right. Well,
what I find the struggle is in working with couples is that women, you can be priest, provider, and protector, but if I'm not partnered in this, if I don't have voice, if I don't have share, if I don't have expression in this relationship, you can be all those things. I'm still not going to be fulfilled. I'm still not going to express love the way you want to receive it, right. Because there's another P that matters, and it goes with it's the respect. And think about, you probably know the story about the respect song that who sang that?
Tina Turner. Not Tina
the
Turner.
lady sang, right?
Yeah.
That song was supposed to be sung by Otis Redding. It was a male song.
It was.
Right, and yet the one who made it famous was a woman.
Yes.
RESPECT. So women, again, music matters, words matter, and I think we raised generations of women who own that. So Aretha Franklin, thank you. So now women don't just come in a relationship from the old, traditional egalitarian model of man is the priest, prophet in the home. No, I'm a partner. I don't come to this condescending. I come to this, I'm in, right? You don't get to make all that. You don't get to make the hard decisions even.
Right.
We get to make the decisions. And if we don't make the decisions, we're not going to be happy. Right? And am I shaking my head?
No, you had a little shake, but that was a little bit. That's
but that's one, and I think, here's the thing, I think women are vocalizing that more and men are hearing it. Men are struggling with it because they haven't seen that model.
Well, also, men are struggling with it, but as I was talking to a sister yesterday, that the timing is off. Quite often, women want you to be the priest, protector, and the provider and the partner. But they want it like before there's a commitment. Mm-hmm. They want you to be the provider. It's a timing process. I'm not your provider if we haven't gone on a date yet. And so it's not expected of me to take on the role of the provider.
Yeah.
We don't have that rapport.
Well, that's a slippery slope, I think.
It is.
I think there are also just some behavioral norms that we could model that would be beneficial, but like you said, I think people take the idea that if I'm gonna be with you, you got to start acting like it now. You got to prove to me,
right.
And there's some truth to that too. But then it's got to be a two-way street, right?
Yes.
And I think the real issue is expectations, right? What do you expect out of this relationship? Right, and if you can have an honest discussion about those things, you get to choose. Okay, no, I'm not ready for that, and walk away. Now, I'll be honest. I didn't have those conversations when I was young before I met my wife and dating. I didn't. You just did what you felt, and you had these weird ideas. And I think people are still doing it today. They felt they're not having the conversations about what it really means.
I'm gonna go up there and try to get one question from the audience. I put somebody on. You may know her.
Yeah,
put her on.
I think you did.
I did. So we're gonna see which one of these mics work here. All right.
You're not gonna put the camera on them, are you?
I don't know. Are we? No, we're not. Okay. Lady Pinkney. Speak for all the women of all the world.
She'll do it.
Well, I don't know if I can speak for all the women of the world, but I do believe I have some idea of, what women generally speak about and what we talk about, on our ladies' nights and when we have dinners and when we're talking about men. And I found this to be a very interesting and awesome conversation, but I'll speak to my experience, which I think will reflect what a lot of women talk about. And that's when Colin mentioned about partnership and the priest, protector, and provider, but one other thing that's really important is partnership, and including your man, your husband, in what you're thinking and decisions and what you may want to have happen, because women and men think differently and they focus on different things, and I believe that it was intended that way so that the two halves can make a whole. But there's great damage done when we cut men out of the conversation, which a lot of times women will do. And one of the things, I was raised by a single mom, and so I never saw my mom have a relationship with a husband in the house, ever, because she was single and she didn't really bring men into the house. And so I learned how to be a mom and how to make decisions from a single mom who made all the decisions and taught me how to live on my own, me, my brother, and my sister. And so you don't really realize how that impacts your marriage when you have a strong mom. It doesn't have to be your mom was a single mom, but if your mom was a strong mom and you saw her doing everything and seemed to be making all the decisions, you don't know how to incorporate your husband into that conversation because it wasn't modeled, it wasn't taught to you, you didn't learn it, and you just think you're the driver. And a lot of women do that. They're in the driver's seat and they make the decisions, and they may include you or they may include you after the fact. And so I think it's something that women do have to work on, and I believe men's part in that is to express it and to speak about it respectfully and encourage it and have conversations and show that you want to be a part of it and that you can speak and understand each other, where you're coming from, and respect those differences.
Thank you very much. That's
told
that
you.
safe space brothers need that we don't often get.
Yeah.
You want to speak to that? Any of that? What she said, Mr. Colin?
Well, yeah, it's a two-way street. I was raised by a single mom too. A very strong, dominant single mom who wasn't healthy emotionally. She wasn't healthy mentally. She wasn't healthy relationally, and yet she believed what she was teaching us is what we need to learn to do in life. And I had to, it's look, nobody wants to disrespect their mom, right? Who wants to say, but truth is that's a two-way street. And so, men, and this I go back to the voice thing with men. Men grow up, if there's healthy modeling in the home, these discussions about love and respect, I believe, take a back seat to the relationship. You get to then be in relationship expressing, and you're willing to make concessions, and you give some, you take some, if you get that modeled in a healthy way. Most of us haven't had that, and so we've got to repair a lot of broken stuff. So most relationships I find are, especially when you marry somebody who comes from a single parent home, you're doing a lot of repair work, most of the relationship. A lot of I'm sorry, oops, I didn't mean to say that, I shouldn't have did that. Well, where'd that come from? I didn't just pull it out of the air. That's who I am. That's who I've been shaped to be by my environment. And if I'm going to be in this relationship, stay in this relationship, thrive in this relationship, then we've got some repair work to do. So we spend more time for the relationships that do make it, and I know some that do. The ones that do make it is not because, well, I never did this, I never did that. No, you spent time repairing brokenness. And when you do the work of repair, then you can finally get there. And and the problem is that doesn't meet the ideal, because none of the songs talk about this. None of the movies show us this part.
No one knows.
That's what we got to live out. And then especially culturally, when you come to a culture of people who had the pride of going outside for help wasn't real either. You didn't tell nobody you're having problems. You sure didn't go to a counselor.
Right.
So we've been imploding all these decades inside, and now the ones who do make it are spending more. I find it. The relationships to make it you have to do the work of repair. But here's what most people do. I ain't got time for that. You got to be ready. If you're going to be my man, you got to come with it. You're talking about a broken dude, right?
Right.
You're talking about a dude.
80% of the kids today that are born into a single parent household.
Yeah.
So it may have been, 20 years ago, it may have been 60%, but still, it's still a large enough number that the person who you interact with more than likely is in need of repair.
That's the big work that gets need. Look, if I had my way and say, do you want a relationship? You got to do repair work, and no, it's hard.
Nobody wants to do the work.
Where's
Matter of
that?
fact, they want you to have your 780 credit report. They want you to have your $150,000 a year job. They want you to have 2 weeks of vacation on a desert island, and everything put together when they meet you.
Recent study came out, black women continue to outpace men in higher earning degrees and jobs.
Yes.
Men are behind. If that's going to be the reality of the relationship, we got a long way to go.
We got a long way to go. I want to thank you, Colin Pinkney, for joining us here today for this conversation. It was a wonderful conversation. We're a little bit behind. But we want to thank you all for joining us, too, around the world, wherever you may be. This is Charlotte Conversations. It is a hybrid of a Sunday school. Back in the day when we went to Sunday school, we had a little book we used to pull out and we used to go over every week. But now we're having these conversations. We want to have talks about things that people are talking about. So you may live an empowered life. I'm Pastor Barrett. This is Colin Pinkney. I want to say thank you for joining us, and come back every Sunday at 11 a.m. to be empowered.